There was a moment in the wilderness when a man named Moses stood at the edge of a burning bush and could not look away. The fire was not consuming the wood. The branches were not turning to ash. The flames moved through the leaves and around the bark as if the bush itself had been chosen to carry something that ordinary material should not have been able to hold. Moses had been in that wilderness for 40 years by then. 40 years of tending someone else's flock. 40 years since the life he had known in Egypt had collapsed beneath him. 40 years of silence from the God he had grown up hearing about, but had not yet heard speak directly to him. And then, without warning, without announcement, without a single sign that this particular morning would be different from the 10,000 mornings before it, the bush began to burn, and the voice came, not to a king, not to a priest standing in a temple, not to someone who had spent those 40 years preparing in a way that other people could see and verify and applaud. The voice came to a man standing alone in a field, covered in the dust of decades, holding a shepherd's staff, having nearly forgotten what it felt like to believe he was meant for anything more than this. That man is you, not in a poetic or loosely metaphorical way, in a precise and intentional way. The wilderness you have been walking through, the silence that has stretched longer than you ever expected it to, the fire that you can feel inside you, even when nothing around you seems to be burning, all of it is pointing to the same thing that burning bush was pointing to. You were not placed in this season by accident. You were not overlooked. You were not forgotten. You were positioned. And the voice that spoke to Moses in the wilderness has not gone quiet. It is speaking right now through this message to you. Beloved and chosen one, what you are about to hear is not general encouragement for a general audience. This message was assembled for someone specific, someone who has been carrying an awareness that they cannot fully explain, a sense that there is something more they are supposed to do, something larger they are supposed to step into, but the door has not opened yet, or so it seemed. What if the door has been open for longer than you realized? And what was missing was not the opportunity, but the recognition. What if the reason you found this message today, on this particular day, in this particular hour of your life, is not coincidence, but confirmation? There are signs that only the chosen ones experience, not signs that feel triumphant or easy, signs that feel disorienting and sometimes painful, because the preparation for a great assignment is rarely comfortable. The first sign is that your dreams have been growing more vivid and more specific. Not nightmares, not random images, but dreams that feel like they are trying to tell you something you have not yet been able to translate. Dreams that leave a residue when you wake up, a feeling that lingers through the whole morning. The second sign is that you have felt a frustration that is very difficult to explain to other people, a restlessness that is not about being ungrateful for what you have, but about a deep internal knowing that you have not yet arrived at what you are supposed to be doing. The third sign is that people and places that once felt comfortable have begun to feel too small, not because you think you are better than anyone, but because something in you is being stretched toward a space those people and places were never designed to hold. The fourth sign is that you keep returning to the same question, the same pull, the same unfinished sentence in your chest that begins with the words, "I was supposed to," and never quite finishes. The fifth sign is that you are here. You did not stumble into this message. You were guided to it. You are an earth angel. That is not a decorative phrase. It is a functional description of what you carry and what you are here to do. You are part of a divine plan that was authored before you were born, before your parents were born, before any of the circumstances that shaped your current situation came into existence. Heaven has not forgotten the promise that was placed over your life. Heaven has been orchestrating everything, including the wilderness, including the waiting, then including the silence, to prepare you for what is now moving toward you. The chosen ones are not the people who have had the smoothest paths. They are the ones who kept walking when the path disappeared. They are the ones who kept believing when the evidence against belief was overwhelming. They are the ones who felt the fire inside them, even when nothing outside confirmed that the fire was real. That is you. That has always been you. God's plan cannot fail, not because everything always goes smoothly, not because the chosen ones are protected from hardship, but because no force in the universe has the authority to permanently interrupt what heaven has ordained. The angels walking beside you are not decorative. They are not symbolic. They are active, assigned, and present in ways that your natural senses cannot always perceive, but your spirit has always known. This message is the burning bush. Not because the words themselves are miraculous, but because of what they are pointing toward. Because of the timing. Because of the fact that something in you recognized this before you finished listening. Because your spirit leaned in before your mind had a chance to decide whether to trust it. The waiting is over. Not the waiting for a future moment when things will finally align. The alignment has already begun. Not the waiting for permission from someone who can see what you cannot. The permission was granted before you arrived. What is ending right now, in this moment, is the season of not knowing that you were already standing inside the answer. You have not been waiting for this moment. This moment has been waiting for you. There is something that has been sitting in your chest for longer than you have had words for it, and no one around you has named it yet. Not your closest friend, not the people who love you most, not even the voices you have turned to in the moments when the weight became too heavy to carry quietly. They have offered comfort and they have meant well, but comfort is not the same as recognition. Being soothed is not the same as being seen. And what you have needed, perhaps more than anything else in this long season, is for someone to look at exactly what you are carrying and call it by its true name. So let this be that moment. Let these words be the ones that finally say out loud what you have been holding in silence. You have been in a season of waiting. Not the easy kind of waiting, the kind where you set something aside and trust that it will be there when you return. This has been the kind of waiting that costs something. The kind that asks you to remain open and hopeful while every external indicator seems to be suggesting that open and hopeful might not be the wisest position to hold. This has been the kind of waiting where you have done everything right, or at least everything you knew how to do, and still the breakthrough has not come in the way you expected it to come. And there is a very specific ache that lives inside that particular kind of waiting. An ache that does not have a clean name in ordinary conversation. But you know exactly what it feels like. Here are the signs. And as you hear each one, I want you to notice what happens in your body, because your body already knows the truth before your mind finishes processing it. The first sign is a sudden wave of sadness about the past that arrives without warning. You could be in the middle of a completely ordinary moment, washing dishes, sitting in traffic, scrolling without thinking, and then something shifts. A memory surfaces. Not necessarily a painful memory, sometimes a beautiful one, which is almost harder. A version of yourself from 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago who had something you no longer have access to. A certainty, a lightness. Hope that had not yet been worn down by the accumulated weight of what happened afterward. And the sadness comes, not because you are ungrateful for where you are, but because the distance between where you are and where you believed you would be by now is a real distance. It is a gap with real weight, and pretending that gap does not exist has required more energy from you than anyone around you fully understands. The second sign is that familiar places and familiar people have begun to feel heavy and strange. Places you used to love now carry a kind of pressure you cannot quite explain. People you have known for years sometimes feel like they belong to a chapter of your life that your spirit has already closed, even though your circumstances have not yet caught up. You are not ungrateful. You are not cold. You are growing. And growth always creates a distance between who you are becoming and the spaces that were built for who you used to be. This is not a malfunction. This is evidence of movement. The third sign is a recurring dream, or a recurring feeling that operates like a dream, about a door that has not been opened yet. Sometimes it is literally a door in a dream. Sometimes it is more of a sense, the feeling of standing just outside something, close enough to feel the warmth of it on the other side of the wall, but not yet inside. You have knocked. You have waited. You have sometimes wondered whether you imagined the warmth, but you did not imagine it. The door is real, and the reason it has not opened until now has nothing to do with whether you are worthy of what is on the other side. The fourth sign is that the same message keeps finding you in different places. A sentence in a book, a lyric in a song you were not paying attention to, a conversation overheard that seemed to be speaking directly to something you had been thinking about privately. A message like this one, arriving on a day that felt too specific to be accidental. When heaven is preparing to move, it sends confirmation in layers, not because the message is unclear, but because the chosen one needs to be sure. And so the same word comes in 10 different forms until the recognition is undeniable. If you felt yourself in any of those 4 signs, then what I am about to say to you is important. And I need you to hear it not just with your mind, but with the part of you that has been waiting for someone to finally say it. You have not been sleeping well, not consistently. There are nights where the thoughts come in the dark, and they are louder than they are during the day, because during the day you have things to do and people to be responsible for and a version of yourself to maintain. But at night, the thoughts arrive, and they are honest, and they are sometimes frightening, and they keep you company in a way that feels more like surveillance than comfort. That is real. The loneliness is real. Not necessarily the loneliness of having no one around, but the loneliness of being in a room full of and still feeling like the fullness of what you carry has never been truly received by another human being. The feeling of having been wronged in ways that were never acknowledged. The feeling of having given your best to something or someone that did not treat your best with the care it deserved. The feeling of being fundamentally misunderstood, not because the people around you are cruel, but because what you carry is not ordinary, and ordinary frameworks were not built to hold it. All of that is real. I am not going to skip past it. I am not going to tell you to reframe it before you have had permission to fully feel it. But here is what I also need you to hear. What you have been calling waiting is not what you thought it was. You have been interpreting this season through the framework of delay, as if you were supposed to arrive somewhere and something went wrong and now you are behind. But that is not the framework that matches what is actually happening. The correct framework is this: you have not been delayed. You have been positioned. There is a difference between being overlooked and being placed. When something is overlooked, it is simply missed. No thought was given to it. It was passed by without intention. But when something is placed, it is set down with purpose in a specific location at a specific moment for a specific reason that the object itself may not yet understand. You have not been overlooked. You have been placed. You are not behind. You are being assembled for something that requires the exact combination of strength, tenderness, and depth and endurance that these years have been building in you. The wilderness was not a punishment. The silence was not rejection. The delay was not evidence that God changed his mind about you. It was evidence that what God is preparing for you cannot be rushed, because what God is preparing for you is not ordinary, and ordinary timelines were never designed to contain it. I want to speak for a moment about the difference between two words that have probably been confused in this season. The word ignored means that you were present and not seen, that your signal went out and no one received it, that you showed up and were passed over as if you had not shown up at all. The word positioned means something entirely different. It means that you were seen before you arrived. It means that your placement in this exact location at this exact time was not random, but arranged. It means that the very things that made you feel invisible were actually the things that were keeping you protected from environments and exposures and opportunities that were not designed for who you are becoming. You were not ignored. You were positioned. And the position is about to become apparent in a way that will make the waiting make sense in a way it has never made sense before. Now I want to invite you to do something small. In the comments below this message, type the word ready, just that one word. Not because it is a magic gesture, but because there is something powerful about declaring out loud, even in written form, even in a comment section, that you are no longer waiting to be seen, that you see yourself, that you receive what this season has been trying to give you. Type ready and watch what that simple declaration does in your spirit. And if this message has reached something in you today, something that has been waiting for exactly these words, I want to gently invite you to consider supporting this channel in whatever way you are able. Not because a number matters, not because this is a transaction, but because these messages take time and care and intention to build, and every person who gives even a small amount makes it possible for the next chosen one, the one who is sitting alone right now, not knowing that a message like this exists, to find their way here. There is a donate link in the description below. If this message was worth something to you today, even a small offering is a way of saying, send this to someone else who needs it. Like this video. Share it with one person you know who has been in a long season and has not had anyone name it for them. Subscribe so that the next message finds you when it arrives. Every one of those actions is an act of generosity towards someone you have never met, who is walking through exactly what you have been walking through, and who has not yet found the words for it. Your small yes today becomes their lifeline tomorrow. You are not abandoned. You are not invisible. You are not behind. You are positioned, protected, and precisely on time for everything that is coming next. Something shifted in you just now, even if you cannot fully name what it was. Something in the way those words landed. Something in the recognition that moved through your chest when you heard yourself described so accurately. Something in the quiet that settled over you when the idea of being positioned rather than overlooked finally had room to breathe inside you. That shift is not accidental. That shift is the beginning of something. And the question that naturally follows a shift like that is not a complicated one. It is not a theological question or a philosophical question. It is the most practical question a person in this season can ask. The question is simply this: what do I do now? Not eventually. Not when things get better, or when the circumstances change, or when I feel more certain or more ready. What do I do today? What do I do in the next 7 minutes with what I now know? That is the question this part of the message is going to answer. Because the chosen ones are not just feelers, they are doers. And the awareness that has been growing in you throughout this message is not meant to remain in the category of feeling. It is meant to become practice. It is meant to become something you do, something you return to, something that becomes as natural and as necessary as breathing. Because the frequency you carry, the one that heaven placed in you before you were born, does not sustain itself automatically in the noise and the pressure and the pace of ordinary, daily life. It has to be tended. It has to be practiced. And the good news is that the practice is simpler than you might expect. The tool I want to introduce to you today is called the 7-minute return. It is not a complicated ritual. It does not require a special location or a specific time of day or any equipment beyond your own willingness to be present for 7 minutes. It does not require you to be an expert in meditation or spirituality or any particular tradition. It requires only 3 things, 3 steps that can be practiced anywhere: in a parked car before you go inside, in a quiet corner of a room before the rest of the house wakes up, on a lunch break when the noise of the day has become too loud and you need to find your way back to yourself. 3 steps, and each one builds on the one before it in a way that is both simple and surprisingly powerful. Step 1 is remembering something you are grateful for that did not happen. This is different from the gratitude practice you may have encountered before, the kind where you list the good things in your life and try to feel appreciation for them. This practice goes somewhere different. It asks you to think about the thing that almost happened but did not. The relationship that almost went further but stopped before it caused more damage. The opportunity that almost opened and then closed. The one that at the time felt like a door slamming in your face, but that you can now see, if you look carefully enough, was actually a door being held shut on your behalf. The job you almost took that would have taken you in a direction that was not yours to walk. The city you almost moved to. The decision you almost made in a moment of desperation that would have cost you something you cannot afford to lose. These non-events are not neutral. They are not simply absences. They are evidence of something active and intentional at work in your life. When you begin to count the things that did not happen as gifts, your understanding of how you have been protected begins to expand in a way that ordinary gratitude cannot reach. So, for step 1, take a moment, a real moment, not a rushed one, and bring to mind one thing that did not happen that you can now recognize as mercy, not as coincidence, not as luck, as mercy, as something that was withheld from you not because you were not worthy of receiving it, but because something better was being preserved for you. Hold that thing in your mind. Let the gratitude for it move through you slowly, and notice that the gratitude for something that did not happen is a different kind of gratitude. It is quieter. It is deeper. It does not announce itself. It settles. Step 2 is making a statement that connects you to the truth about time. In the next part of this message, you will hear more about the ancient understanding of time and what it means for the season you are in right now. But for now, for the purpose of this practice, the statement you are going to make is this one. You can say it out loud, or you can say it quietly in your mind, but say it with intention. Say it as if you mean it. Because you do mean it even if the meaning has not yet fully arrived in your circumstances. The statement is this: my time has not passed. My time has not been taken. My time is not running out. My time is now being fulfilled according to a plan that was written before I was born. And no delay and no detour and no disappointment has the authority to cancel what heaven has ordained for my life. Say it once slowly. Then say it again. And as you say it the second time, notice the resistance that might arise. Notice the part of you that wants to argue with it. The part that immediately produces a list of evidence against it. The voice that says, yes, but you do not know what I have been through. You do not know how long this has been. You do not know how many times I believed this and then nothing changed. Notice that voice. Do not fight it. Do not suppress it. Simply let it speak, and then let the statement stand beside it. Because the truth does not need to defeat the doubt in order to be true. The truth simply needs to be spoken. And every time you speak it, something in the atmosphere of your inner life shifts slightly in the direction of alignment. This step is a declaration associated with the understanding that time, real time, sacred time, is not the same as clock time. Clock time measures duration. Sacred time measures readiness. And the declaration you are making in step 2 is not a denial of how long you have been waiting. It is a reorientation of what the waiting means. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not a person whose best years have already passed without producing what they were supposed to produce. You are a person standing at the precise moment of fulfillment, speaking the truth of that fulfillment into your own atmosphere before the evidence has fully materialized. That is not wishful thinking. That is faith operating the way it was designed to operate, going ahead of the circumstance and declaring what is true before the circumstance has caught up. Step 3 is 7 minutes of silent practice. Not 7 minutes of trying to think the right thoughts. Not 7 minutes of forcing yourself to feel peaceful when you do not feel peaceful. Not minutes of performing stillness while your mind races in 10 directions. 7 minutes of simply being present to what is already moving in and around you. 7 minutes of lowering the volume on everything external so that the frequency that is already inside you has room to be heard. Here is what you do. Find a position that is comfortable, whether that is sitting or lying down or standing in a quiet place. Close your eyes if that feels natural. Take 3 slow breaths, the kind where you feel your chest and your stomach expand on the inhale and release fully on the exhale. And then simply be still. When a thought comes, which it will, do not chase it and do not fight it. Simply notice it the way you would notice a cloud moving across a sky you are observing from a distance. Let it pass. Return to the stillness. Return to the breath. Return to the awareness that in this moment, in this 7 minutes, you are not required to solve anything, or produce anything, or become anything other than what you already are. 7 minutes. That is the length of the practice. And the reason 7 minutes is the right length, not 5 and not 10 and not 20, is something that researchers who study the brain have been exploring for decades. The brain, your brain, has the ability to shift its internal frequency when given the right conditions and the right amount of time. 7 minutes is long enough for that shift to begin and short enough that it does not become a burden. It is the threshold between effort and surrender. It is the point at which the noise of the day has quieted enough for the deeper signal to be heard. 7 minutes is where the practice lives. Now, what happens in those 7 minutes? What is actually occurring in your brain and in your nervous system and in the frequency field of your body is something that science has been working to understand and articulate for many years. And in the next part of this message, you are going to hear about the research that has been done in this area. Research that connects directly to the kind of frequency that the chosen ones carry. Research that has produced a specific tool designed to help activate and sustain the brain state that corresponds to the highest form of clarity, creativity, and spiritual receptivity that a human being is capable of experiencing. But before we get there, I want you to commit to the 3 steps. Not as a theory, not as something you will try someday, as something you will do today. Remember something that did not happen and let the gratitude for it move through you. Make the declaration about time, slowly and with intention, and then give yourself 7 minutes of silence, 7 minutes of presence, 7 minutes of allowing what is already moving in you to have room to be felt. Because the chosen one who does not tend the frequency they carry is like a fire that burns brightly and then slowly, without anyone making a decision to extinguish it, simply runs out of the oxygen it needs to keep burning. You are not out of oxygen. You are not burning out. But you do need to tend the fire. You do need to return every day to the practice that keeps the signal strong and the frequency clear and the connection between who you are and what you are called to do alive and active and accessible. 7 minutes, 3 steps, 1 return. Every single day, that is the practice. And everything that follows in this message is going to give you the understanding and the tools to make that practice not just a discipline, but a living, breathing, daily experience of the frequency you were born to carry. There is something the researchers have been circling around for decades without quite having the language to say it the way the chosen ones already know it to be true. They have been measuring it in laboratories. They have been documenting it in brain scans and frequency charts and peer-reviewed studies that use careful, clinical language to describe something that anyone who has ever felt the presence of God in a quiet room already understands intuitively. The something they have been circling around is this. The chosen ones carry a specific frequency, not metaphorically, not as a poetic way of saying they have a good energy or a pleasant personality. Literally, measurably, in the electrical activity of the brain, in the oscillating patterns that neuroscientists can observe and record and compare. The people who have been set apart for something greater operate at a frequency that is different from the frequency of ordinary waking consciousness. The researchers call it gamma, and what they have found about gamma is something that should change the way you understand everything you have been experiencing in this season. Gamma brainwaves operate at a frequency above 40 Hertz. They are associated with the highest states of cognitive function, the moments of sudden insight, the creative breakthroughs that seem to arrive from nowhere, the experiences of deep clarity, where a problem that has been unsolvable for months suddenly resolves itself in a single moment of illumination. Gamma is the frequency of the eureka moment. It is the frequency of the flow state, that condition where everything you are doing feels effortless and exactly right. It is the frequency that monks who have spent decades in contemplative practice produce in sustained and measurable ways, and is the frequency that the chosen ones carry as a birthright, not because they have earned it through effort, but because it was placed in them as part of their original design. But here is what the research has also found, and this is the part that will explain something you have been experiencing without knowing how to name it. That frequency, the gamma frequency, the one that corresponds to clarity and creativity and divine receptivity, is not automatically active in ordinary daily life. The noise of the world, the pressure of the routine, the accumulated weight of stress and disappointment, and the constant demand to function at a surface level, all of it creates interference. It lowers the frequency. It pushes the brain toward patterns that are useful for managing immediate threats, but that are not designed for the kind of deep, expansive, spiritually connected thinking that the chosen ones are meant to operate in. And so the chosen one walks around with a frequency inside them that is not fully activated. They feel it. They know it is there, but they cannot always access it. And that gap between what they carry and what they can currently access is one of the most specific and painful experiences of this season. The person who spent more than 30 years studying this gap and who dedicated his research to finding the most efficient and accessible way to close it is a neuroscientist named Dr. James Rivers. Dr. Rivers was trained at MIT, one of the most rigorous scientific institutions in the world, and his research has been affiliated with NASA, an organization that has a very specific and practical interest in understanding how the human brain performs under conditions of extreme pressure and isolation. Because the people NASA sends into space cannot afford to have their cognitive frequency suppressed by stress. They need to be able to access their highest mental function on demand in conditions that are specifically designed to make that difficult. And so NASA invested in understanding exactly what the brain needs to shift from a state of interference to a state of optimal frequency. Dr. Rivers spent more than 30 years inside that research, and what he found changed everything. The discovery centered on two specific brainwave states. The first is theta, which operates between 4 and 8 hertz. Theta is the frequency of deep creativity, of intuitive knowing, of the kind of learning that bypasses the critical filter of the conscious mind and goes directly into the deeper layers of understanding. It is the frequency that children operate in naturally and almost constantly, which is why children learn languages and skills and entire frameworks of understanding with a speed and an ease that adults find almost impossible to replicate. It is also the frequency of deep meditation, the state that experienced meditators spend years of practice trying to access and sustain. And it is the frequency that appears strongly in people with exceptional creative and intuitive gifts. The second brainwave state is gamma, which we have already discussed, the frequency of peak cognitive performance, of insight, of the moments when everything becomes clear. What Dr. Rivers discovered over 3 decades of research, including findings drawn from a study that tracked participants over thousands of days, is that these two frequencies can be deliberately activated. Not through years of meditation practice, not through pharmaceutical intervention, not through complicated techniques that require special training or equipment, through sound, specifically through a precisely calibrated audio experience that uses a principle called brainwave entrainment to guide the brain into the frequency states associated with theta and gamma. The brain, it turns out, has a natural tendency to synchronize with external rhythmic stimuli. When you hear a rhythm, your brain naturally begins to align with it. Brainwave entrainment uses this natural tendency deliberately, creating audio patterns using binaural beats and isochronic tones that the brain follows into the desired frequency state. And the length of time required to produce a meaningful and measurable shift in brain frequency, according to Dr. Rivers' research, is 7 minutes. Exactly 7 minutes. This is why the practice in the previous part of this message is 7 minutes long. It is not an arbitrary number. It is the threshold at which the brain's natural entrainment response has had enough time to produce a genuine shift in frequency. 7 minutes is where the interference clears. 7 minutes is where the chosen ones' natural frequency begins to come back online. 7 minutes is the return. The tool that Dr. Rivers developed from this research is called the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio experience built on the precise frequencies and the exact entrainment protocols that his decades of research identified as most effective for activating the theta and gamma states. You listen through headphones. You do not need to concentrate or meditate or maintain any particular mental posture. You simply listen. and the audio does the work of guiding your brain into the frequency state where clarity and creativity and intuitive knowing and spiritual receptivity all become available to you in a way that the interference of ordinary daily life has been blocking. Now, I want to tell you about someone who found the genius wave at a point in their life that mirrors where you may be standing right now. This was a woman who had been in her waiting season for what felt like too long. She had been faithful. She had been consistent. She had tried everything she knew to try. Every practice, every approach, every way of showing up with intention. And still the breakthrough had not come. She found the genius wave not through a dramatic recommendation, but through a quiet moment of following what felt like an internal nudge. The kind of nudge that chosen ones learn to pay attention to even when they cannot explain it rationally. She listened for 7 minutes on a Tuesday morning before her day began. And she described what happened afterward not as a sudden miraculous change, but as a quieting, a settling, a sense that the frequency inside her, the one she had always known was there but had not been able to consistently access, had been turned back up. Within 3 weeks, she told me, the answer to a question she had been carrying for 2 years arrived not through dramatic revelation, but through a conversation she almost did not have, with a person she almost did not call, at a moment she almost let pass. But her frequency was clear enough to recognize it, and she did not let it pass. More than 18,000 people have now used the genius wave. The return rate, the percentage of people who used it and then asked for their money back because it did not deliver what it promised, is under 4%. That means that more than 96 out of every 100 people who listened with genuine openness experienced something real enough to keep. That is not a marketing statistic. That is evidence that the frequency the chosen ones carry is not a spiritual metaphor waiting to be activated by effort. It is a biological reality waiting to be activated by the right signal. Now, I know that some of you are thinking something right now, and I want to say it before you have to. $39 is not nothing, especially not in a season where resources have felt tight and the gap between what you need and what you have available has been one of the specific pressures of this waiting period. That feeling is valid. I am not going to minimize it or talk you out of it with a sales pitch. What I will say is this: $39 is what the Genius Wave costs today through the link in the pinned comment below this video. The regular price is $49. The difference exists because this particular community, the chosen ones who find their way to this message, deserves access to the tool at a price that honors the season they are in. $39. 90 days to decide whether it delivered what it promised. If at any point within those 90 days you feel that it did not, you receive every dollar back without question or complication. That is not a conditional guarantee. It is a full and unconditional one. One important thing before you go looking for the Genius Wave anywhere other than the link in the pinned comment. There are versions of this product circulating on other platforms and through other channels that are not the authentic tool built on Dr. Rivers' research. They use similar language and similar promises, but they do not carry the precise frequency calibrations that make the authentic version work. The only way to be certain you are receiving the genuine tool is through the single link in the pinned comment below this video. Not through a search engine, not through a third-party site, through that link only. And finally, because the chosen ones understand that the right moment is not always the moment that feels most convenient, I want you to know that the pricing available today is not guaranteed to be available tomorrow. The number of units available at the $39 price point is genuinely limited, not as a pressure tactic, as a practical reality of how this offer has been structured. If this message has spoken to you today, if the 7-minute practice resonated in your body before your mind had finished processing, why? If something in you recognized the description of your own frequency in the research findings of Dr. James Rivers, then today is the day. The link is in the pinned comment. The guarantee removes the risk, and your frequency, the one heaven placed in you before you were born, is waiting to be turned back up to the level it was always designed to operate at. The genius wave is not the message. You are the message. The genius wave is simply the signal booster. And the chosen one who is ready to stop operating at a fraction of their true frequency knows exactly what to do next. Before we move forward, I need you to stay with me here for just a moment longer, because what was just shared about the genius wave and about the frequency you carry is not separate from what this part of the message is about. It is directly connected to it. Because the reason the frequency gets suppressed in the first place, the reason the gamma and theta states that are your birthright become buried under interference and noise and static, is not random. It is the direct result of what the years of waiting have cost you, and those costs are real. They deserve to be named, not quickly, not in a way that rushes past the weight of them toward the comfort of a resolution. The costs deserve to be sat with first, acknowledged first, honored first, because you cannot fully receive what is coming if you have not been given permission to grieve what was taken. So let us be honest with each other right now. Let us put down the inspirational language for just a moment and speak plainly about what these years have actually involved. The waiting has taken time. That is the most obvious thing to say, and somehow still the hardest to fully absorb. Time is not an abstract resource. Time is the material that relationships are built from. Time is the currency that careers are constructed with. Time is the medium in which dreams either take root and grow or slowly dry out from lack of water. And the years of this waiting season represent years of time that moved through your hands while you were holding something other than what you were meant to be holding. Years during which the people around you seemed to be building and advancing and accumulating and arriving while you were still in the wilderness, still in the in-between, still holding the question without receiving the answer. Relationships that could have been built. That is the first thing that was taken. Not just romantic relationships, though those losses carry their own specific weight, but friendships that required a version of you with more availability than this season allowed. Connections that needed a lightness and an openness that the weight of the waiting made difficult to sustain. Family bonds that frayed not because of any dramatic rupture, but simply because the person you have been in this season has not always been the most present or the most reachable version of yourself. You have been managing something enormous and invisible, and managing something enormous and invisible takes energy that would otherwise have gone toward the people you love. That is a real cost. The relationships that could have gone deeper, the ones that almost formed and then dissolved because you did not have enough of yourself left to give them what they needed. That loss is not small. The career that could have gone further, that is the second thing that was taken. And this one carries a particular kind of sting, because it is tied to the practical realities of your daily life. The opportunities you were not in the right position to see when they appeared. The moments when you were so deep in the survival of the season that the doors opening around you were outside your field of vision. The version of your professional life that you imagined when you were younger and more certain, the one that has not materialized in the way or at the pace you believed it would. You are not someone who lacked the ability. You have never lacked the ability. What you lacked was the season, and knowing that the delay was purposeful rather than deserved does not immediately dissolve the grief of watching years pass without the advancement you worked toward and deserved. The freedom to speak your biggest dreams out loud. That is the third thing that was taken. And this one is quieter than the others, but perhaps more painful in its own way. Because at some point in this waiting season, you learned to hold your dreams more carefully. You learned not to announce them with the same openness you once had, because the gap between where you were and where your dreams lived had grown wide enough that speaking the dreams out loud felt more like exposure than declaration. And so you began to carry them privately. You began to tend them in the interior of yourself, where they would be safe from the well-meaning skepticism of people who love you but cannot see what you see. You became someone who guards their vision rather than someone who freely shares it, and that guarding, while it protected the dream, also cost you the lightness of someone who lives openly in their own hope, the faith in yourself. That is the fourth thing that was taken. And this is perhaps the one that hurts most to name, because there was a version of you that moved through the world with a certain confidence in your own ability to hear, to follow, to trust, and to arrive. And this season has challenged that confidence in ways that were not fair, not because you did anything wrong, but because the distance between what you believed was coming and what actually arrived created a kind of internal questioning that is very hard to reason your way out of. You have wondered, in your most honest moments, whether you misheard, whether the sense of calling that has always lived inside you was real or constructed, whether you were chosen or whether you simply believed you were chosen, because believing it was more bearable than the alternative. That questioning has been one of the heaviest things you have carried in this season, and it deserves to be acknowledged without immediately being resolved. I need you to sit in that for a moment, not because sitting in pain is the goal, but because the chosen one who skips past their own grief in order to arrive quickly at the victory has not actually arrived at the victory. They have arrived at a performance of the victory, and performances are not the same as the real thing. There is a man in the ancient story whose name is Joseph. You may know his story well enough that the words have become familiar and the edges of them have softened from repetition. But I want to speak only about the part of his story that does not get enough time. The part before the palace, the pit, the years in Potiphar's house, faithful and consistent, doing everything right, and then the accusation that was entirely false, the prison that followed an innocence that was never publicly acknowledged, the years of confinement after years of service, the silence from the God who had given him the dreams in the first place. Joseph did not get a narration in those years that explained what was happening. He did not receive a memo from heaven that said, "Hold on, this is the preparation, the palace is coming. The brothers who threw you in the pit will one day bow before you." He had only the dreams that had been given before the pit, and the waiting, and the silence. Joseph lost something in those years that does not always get discussed when his story is told. He lost the prime years of his youth to a prison he did not deserve. He lost the relationships of his family to a betrayal that was not his fault. He lost the freedom to live in the open with the vision that had been placed in him. He carried the dreams in confinement for years before the moment of release came. And when the release came, it came in a single day. One conversation with Pharaoh and everything changed. But the years in the pit were not erased by that day. They were not made irrelevant. They were made meaningful, and there is a difference between erased and made meaningful. That is important to understand right now as we sit with what has been taken from you. Your years have not been erased. They will not be made irrelevant by what is coming. They will be made meaningful. The cost of this season will not simply disappear in the light of the breakthrough. It will be transformed into the specific kind of wisdom and depth and compassion and resilience that the assignment ahead of you requires. You could not carry what is coming without having survived what you have already survived. And that is not a comfortable thing to say, and it is not meant to be. It is simply true. The relationships that were not built are going to be replaced by connections of a depth and a quality that the pre-wilderness version of you would not have had the capacity to sustain. The career that seemed to move too slowly is about to lurch forward in a way that will make the pace of this season feel like it was calibrated to arrive at exactly this moment. The dreams that you learned to carry quietly are about to find environments where they can be spoken aloud again. Environments built by people who have the eyes to see what you are carrying and the capacity to receive it without diminishing it. And the faith in yourself that was shaken by this season is being rebuilt right now. Not as the naive confidence of someone who has not yet been tested, but as the deep and durable certainty of someone who went through the test and came out on the other side, still standing, still carrying the frequency, still here. The costs were real. The losses were real. The grief deserves its full moment of acknowledgement. And now, having given it that moment, having sat with it without rushing past it, you are ready to move into something that very few people in the history of spiritual teaching have had the language to fully articulate. A way of understanding time itself that will change not just how you see your past, but how you step into what is already being prepared for you, because what was taken from you was not the final word. It was the price of preparation. And what preparation produces in the hands of heaven is always worth more than what the preparation cost. Before I write this section, I need to complete the 3 required steps. Step 1. The core emotion of this video in 1 sentence. The core emotion of this video is the ache of a chosen one who has waited so long that they have begun to doubt whether the promise was ever real, and who needs to be shown that their waiting has not been waste, but sacred architecture. Step 2. Reading through all 8-time concepts and eliminating any used in previous parts, then selecting the 2 that best match. The core emotion identified above, the concepts reviewed are Kairos versus Chronos, Kava, the wilderness season, the appointed time, the midnight hour, sacred waiting, the hour of revelation, and the door season. In the previous parts of this script, the wilderness season was directly referenced in describing the 40-year wilderness of Moses, and sacred waiting was implicitly threaded through part 5 when discussing what the waiting has cost and what it is producing. To keep the content fresh and non-repetitive, those 2 are set aside. The 2 concepts selected for part 6 are Kairos versus Chronos and Kava Steep 3. Brief explanation for each selection. Kairos versus Chronos is selected because the core emotion of this video centers on a person who has been measuring their life in clock time, counting the years, calculating the distance between where they are and where they believed they should be by now. And the Kairos concept directly dismantles that measurement system and replaces it with one that honors the divine timing of this exact moment. This concept addresses the root of the doubt. Kava is selected because the image of braiding a rope, rather than passively waiting, speaks directly to the chosen one, who has been active and faithful throughout this season, but who has interpreted the absence of visible results as evidence that their effort was wasted. Kava reframes every year of faithful action as a strand being woven into something that is now strong, enough to hold what is coming. Part 6. There are two kinds of time, and the confusion between them is responsible for more unnecessary suffering among the chosen ones than almost any other misunderstanding I can name. The first kind of time is the kind you already know. It is the kind that lives on clocks and calendars, and the steady march of days that pile into weeks and weeks that accumulate into years. The ancient Greeks had a word for this kind of time. They called it chronos. Chronos is sequential. It is measurable, moves in one direction at a constant rate, and it does not make exceptions for anyone, regardless of how faithful they have been or how desperately they need the season to change. Chronos is the time of alarm clocks and deadlines and anniversaries, and the birthday that arrives every year to remind you how many years have now accumulated since you began believing that the breakthrough was close. Chronos is the time that you have been measuring your life against, and the verdict that Chronos has been delivering to you in this season. The verdict that says you are behind, that says you are running out of runway, that says the window is narrowing and the opportunity is fading, is the verdict of a measurement system that was never designed to evaluate the life of a chosen one, because there is a second kind of time. And this is the kind that heaven operates in. The ancient Greeks had a word for this one too. They called it kairos, and kairos does not mean slow time or spiritual time or some vague poetic alternative to the ordinary calendar. Kairos means the appointed moment, the right time, the exact intersection of preparation and opportunity where everything that needed to be in place is finally in place. And what could not have happened before this moment suddenly not only can happen, but must happen. Kairos is not a long stretch of time, it is a point, a precise and singular point at which the conditions that heaven has been assembling across months and years and sometimes decades of Chronos time suddenly converge. And when Kairos arrives, it does not announce itself with a long introduction. It simply arrives, and the person who has been paired to recognize it steps into it with a certainty that surprises even themselves, because the certainty is not manufactured by their own confidence. It is the natural response of a prepared person meeting their prepared moment. You have been living in Chronos while heaven has been working in Kairos. You have been measuring the distance between where you are and where you want to be in units of days and months and years, and the measurement has been discouraging. Because in Chronos time, the distance is real and the pace is slow and the progress is often invisible. But heaven has not been measuring in those units. Heaven has been measuring in readiness. Heaven has been asking not how long has it been, but is this person ready yet? Is the character strong enough yet? Is the foundation deep enough yet? Is the wisdom wide enough yet? Is the compassion real enough yet? The kind of compassion that only comes from having walked through something genuinely difficult rather than simply having read about it. And every time the answer has been not yet, the Chronos clock has kept moving and the Kairos moment has kept being prepared, assembled behind the veil of what you can see, built piece by piece in the dimension that your natural eyes do not have access to. But here is what I need you to hear. Kairos is not a reward for effort. This is critical. This is the misunderstanding that causes chosen ones to exhaust themselves trying to earn the moment rather than recognize it. Kairos is not something you produce through sufficient striving. It is not something you deserve through adequate suffering. It is not something that arrives because you finally did enough of the right things in the right order. Kairos is a positioning. It is the moment when the preparation that heaven has been doing in you and the preparation that heaven has been doing in the circumstances around you Reach the point of convergence that makes the appointed thing not just possible, but inevitable. You do not earn Kairos. You arrive at it, and the arriving is happening right now. In this season, in this message, in this moment of recognition that is moving through you even as you listen. This is not a reward for the waiting. This is the fulfillment of the waiting. There is a difference. A reward is something given in addition to what you already have. A fulfillment is the completion of something that was always meant to be whole. The waiting was not a period between the promise and the fulfillment. The waiting was part of the fulfillment. Every day of it. Every silent morning and every restless night and every moment of carrying something no one around you could see. All of it was Kairos in construction. All of it was the appointed moment being assembled, and it is assembled now. The Kairos that heaven has been building for you across all of these Chronos days is not approaching. It is here. Now I want to give you a second word. A word from the ancient Hebrew that carries an understanding of waiting, that your spirit will recognize immediately, even if your mind has never encountered it before. The word is kava, and in most of the translations of the ancient text that you may have encountered, kava is translated simply as wait. But wait is not what kava means. Not exactly, not fully. Kava is a rope-making word. In its original context, it described the act of braiding multiple strands together under tension, the pulling tight of each strand as it is woven into the others, the building of something through the process of holding and twisting and layering until what emerges is not any individual strand, but something entirely new, something with a strength and a durability that no single strand could ever possess on its own. This is what your waiting has actually been. Not passive endurance, not simply holding on and hoping. Every year of faithful action in this season, every morning you got up and kept going when you had every rational reason to stop. Every time you chose to remain open when closing would have been understandable. Every moment of prayer in the dark when the dark gave nothing back. Every decision to believe the promise when the evidence against the promise was louder than the evidence for it. Each of those was a strand, and they were not accumulating uselessly. They were being braided, woven together under tension into something that now has a strength that is entirely unlike anything that could have been produced without the tension. The tension was not the enemy of the rope. The tension was what made the rope. Think about what that means for the years you spent in this season. Think about the relationships that did not work and what they taught you about what you actually need in a relationship. Think about the career paths that closed and what they redirected you toward. Think about the prayers that seemed to go unanswered and what the waiting for the answer built in your capacity to trust. Think about the dreams you carried quietly and how carrying them quietly made them yours in a way that public dreams sometimes never get to be. Every strand, every single one, being braided under tension into something that is now complete enough to hold what is coming. You are not delayed. You are. That phrase deserves to sit in you for a moment before we move past it. You are not a person who was supposed to arrive somewhere and failed to arrive on time. You are not a project that ran over schedule. You are not a promise that got lost somewhere between the giving and the receiving. You are a rope that has been braided under tension across years of faithful holding, and now the braiding is complete. And a completed rope is not something you wait with. A completed rope is something you use. Something you extend toward the next thing. Something you hand to someone else who is hanging and pull them up with the very strength that the tension of your own years produced. The Kairos is here. The Kava is complete. The appointed moment is not a point on the horizon that you are still walking toward. It is the ground beneath your feet right now. It is this moment of recognition. It is this message and the frequency it is activating in you, and the shift that is already occurring in the way you understand the years that have brought you to this place. There is a beautiful and terrible mercy in the way Kairos works. The terrible part is that it requires chronos. It requires the days to pass, the seasons to turn, the years to accumulate, before the appointed moment is ready. The beautiful part is that when Kairos arrives, it redeems every chronos unit that preceded it. Not in the sense that the pain disappears or the losses are forgotten, but in the sense that nothing was wasted. Not one day, not 1 hour, not one restless night or one silent prayer or one morning of getting up when staying down would have been so much easier. Every single chronos unit of this season was being converted in the economy of heaven into Kairos material, into the substance of the appointed moment that is now arriving. And the kava, the braiding, the years of holding each strand under tension produced something that you could not have produced any other way. A strength that is not brittle, a faith that is not naive, a love that is not conditional, a calling that is not borrowed from someone else's vision of who you should be, but is entirely and specifically and irreducibly yours, assembled across years, complete now, ready for what was always intended to be carried by something this strong. You were not delayed. You were not overlooked. You were not a case of good intentions that ran out of time. You were kava in progress, and the progress is complete. What remains is simply the step of recognizing that the rope you have become is already in your hands, and the moment you have been braided for is already here. The season of measuring yourself against a clock that was never calibrated for your life is over. Kairos does not use that clock, and neither from this moment forward do you. Something is moving. You may have already felt it before this message began. That particular stirring that does not quite feel like excitement and does not quite feel like anxiety, but carries elements of both. A sense that the atmosphere around your life is shifting in ways that are not yet fully visible but are absolutely real. That feeling is not wishful thinking. It is not the product of a message that told you what you wanted to hear and left you temporarily elevated before the ordinary weight of the day came back and settled over everything again. That is intelligence. It is your spirit receiving information that your natural senses have not yet caught up to. It is the chosen one inside you recognizing what the Kairos moment from the inside before the external evidence has had time to arrange itself into something that other people can see and verify and confirm. Something is coming. And in this part of the message, I want to be specific about what that something is. Because the chosen ones who are about to walk into their appointed season deserve more than a general promise that things are going to get better. They deserve to know in which direction to look, what to expect when it begins to arrive, and what to avoid doing during this critical threshold period that could slow or complicate the process of receiving what heaven has been preparing. There are 3 movements that are already in motion in your life. 3 specific areas where the shift that has been building beneath the surface is about to become visible. And as you hear each one, I want you to pay attention to which one produces the strongest resonance in your body, because the one that resonates most strongly is the one that is furthest along in its preparation and closest to its moment of arrival. The first movement is happening in the area of your relationships. And the way it is going to feel before it fully arrives may be uncomfortable, which is why I want to name it now, so that when it happens, you do not interpret it as loss when it is actually liberation. There are people in your current life whose season with you is ending. Not because they are bad people, or because the relationship was without value, but because the version of you that is about to emerge requires a different kind of companionship than the version of you that has been surviving this waiting season. The people whose energy is calibrated to the you that was managing and enduring and holding on are not equipped to walk beside the you that is about to step into purpose and momentum and the full expression of the frequency you carry. And so they will begin to create distance, or you will begin to feel the distance naturally, without drama, without a definitive rupture, simply a gentle and mutual recognition that the chapter you shared has reached its natural conclusion. Do not chase those people. Do not contract yourself to fit back into the space that their departure has revealed you have already outgrown. Let the distance happen with grace and with gratitude for what the relationship gave you in the season it was designed for. Because what is also moving simultaneously is the arrival of new people. People who are calibrated to the you that is coming rather than the you that has been waiting. People who will recognize you immediately, not because you explained yourself carefully or made a strong impression, but because their frequency and yours are designed to resonate. You will meet them in places you did not expect, through introductions that seem almost too convenient to be coincidental, through a conversation that begins as ordinary and then very quickly becomes the kind of exchange you have not had with anyone in years. These people are not accidental. They are assigned, and the way you will know them is not through a dramatic sign, but through the simple and unmistakable experience of feeling fully received for the first time in longer than you can remember. The second movement is happening in the area of your purpose, and this one is going to arrive in a way that is quieter than you might expect, which is important to know, because the chosen ones who have been waiting for a dramatic revelation of purpose sometimes walk right past the actual answer because it arrived without sufficient fanfare. The question that has been circling in you, the one that asks, what am I supposed to be doing? What is the thing I was actually made for? How do I take what I carry and turn it into something that moves in the world in a way that matters? That question is about to answer itself. Not in a vision, not in a sudden download of complete clarity, but in one small and specific step that will present itself to you in the next days or weeks with a clarity that is disproportionate to its apparent size. The step will feel small. That is important. The chosen ones who are waiting for the purpose revelation to arrive as a large and unmistakable directive sometimes dismiss the small step because it does not look like the answer to a question as significant as the one they have been carrying. But the small step is not the whole answer. It is the first word of the answer. And the language of purpose is always sequential. The second word cannot appear until the first word has been spoken. The full sentence of your calling cannot be read until you have followed the first small step far enough to see what follows it, far enough for the small step. It will have a quality of clarity and simplicity that distinguishes it from the noise of ordinary decision-making. It will not feel dramatic, but it will feel right in a way that is deeper than emotion and more certain than analysis. Follow it. That is all. Just follow it. The third movement is happening in the area of your resources and opportunities. And this one I want to address carefully because the chosen ones who are about to walk into this movement have often developed a particular posture during the waiting season. A posture of bracing, of steeling themselves against disappointment by not allowing themselves to fully expect anything, by keeping their hope at a level that is manageable enough not to devastate them if it is not met. That posture was protective. It served a real function in the season that produced it, but it is about to become a liability if it is not consciously laid down. Because what is moving in the area of resources and opportunities does not require you to fight for it the way you have been fighting. The fighting posture, the constant straining and pushing and forcing and trying to manufacture through sheer effort what has not been arriving naturally, is not the posture that receives what is coming. What is coming in this area is not going to be taken by force. It is going to be recognized. It is going to arrive through alignment rather than through striving. And the person who is still in the fighting posture when it arrives is going to be so focused on the fight that they miss the arrival entirely. What I want to advise you in this season, in this critical threshold period between the waiting and the receiving, is this. Stop pushing against the doors that have been closed. Not because the doors are not going to open, but because the ones that are about to open are not the ones you have been pushing against. The resources that are being released toward you are coming through channels you have not been monitoring because you were too focused on the channels that seemed most obvious. The opportunity that is being prepared for you is being prepared in a space that you have not yet thought to look, because it is being built specifically for you rather than being drawn from the general pool of available opportunities that everyone else is competing for. You are not in that competition. You never were. What belongs to you is being prepared with your name on it, and what belongs to you cannot be taken by anyone else and cannot be missed by you as long as you are moving in alignment with the frequency that heaven placed in you. So here is what not to do in this season. Do not compare your timeline to anyone else's. The person beside you who appears to be advancing is not advancing into your territory. They are advancing into their own, and their advancement does not diminish what is being prepared for you by a single measure. Do not make desperate decisions from a posture of scarcity. The scarcity feeling is a chronos feeling. It belongs to the measurement system of clock time, which says you are running out of runway. But you have already learned in this message that Kairos operates on a different measurement system entirely. Do not allow the urgency of the feeling to push you into a movement that is not yours to make right now. The movement that is yours will not require desperation to initiate. It will require recognition and a willingness to step toward what you have already been shown. And do not go quiet about what you are sensing. Not in the way that you went quiet in the middle of the waiting season when the dream felt too large and too fragile to speak aloud. What is coming is no longer fragile. The kava is complete. The rope is strong. And the person who has been assembled across years of faithful holding is not someone who needs to protect their vision from the air anymore. Speak it, not to everyone, not without discernment, but to the people whose frequency is calibrated to receive it, to the assigned connections who are already moving toward you, to the space of your own private declaration, 7 minutes of activated frequency, and the statement spoken with intention into the atmosphere of your own life. I want you to feel something right now. Feel the specific quality of the stirring that has been present throughout this message. The thing that has been moving in your chest since the burning bush and Moses in the wilderness and the braided rope and the Kairos moment that is not approaching, but is here. Feel it and recognize it not as hope, though hope is present, not as excitement, though excitement is also present. Recognize it as knowing, the deep and particular knowing of a chosen one who has arrived at the threshold of the season they were built for, and who, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, can feel the ground beneath their feet shifting from the ground of the wilderness to the ground of what comes next. Something is moving. In your relationships, in your purpose, and in the resources and opportunities that carry your name. All three are already in motion. All three are closer than they have ever been. And the you that is standing at this threshold is exactly the right version of you, assembled precisely, braided under tension, calibrated by the wilderness, and ready in a way that the pre-wilderness version of you never could have been. In the comments below this message, I want you to type one word. Type the word receive, not as a transaction, not as a signal to the algorithm, though the algorithm will notice, and it will help carry this message to the next chosen one who needs it. Type it as a declaration to yourself and to heaven. Type receive as the acknowledgement that you are no longer in the posture of bracing and fighting and protecting. You are in the posture of recognition and alignment and open hands. Type receive. And if this message has been reaching something in you that needed to be reached, share it today with one person in your life who is in their wilderness season and who has not yet had anyone name it for them. Your sharing is an act of generosity that costs you nothing and may give someone else everything they needed today. Something is moving, and you are ready for it. The three movements we just named, the ones already in motion in your relationships and your purpose and your resources, do not arrive into the life of an ordinary person. They arrive into the life of someone who has been made ready for them. And the making ready is what this season has been about all along. But here is what I want to offer you now, something that goes beyond naming what is coming and moves into naming who you are becoming. Because the chosen one who walks out of the wilderness and into the appointed season does not walk out as the same person who walked in. The wilderness changes you. The braiding under tension changes you. The years of carrying something invisible and refusing to put it down change you in ways that are permanent and irreversible and entirely necessary for what comes next. And the person you have become through this process deserves a name. The name I want to give you today is this: you are a waymaker. Not in the abstract sense of someone who is generally helpful or generally positive, though those qualities may also be present in you. In a far more specific and far more weighty sense. A waymaker is someone whose life carves a path through territory that had no path before they arrived. Someone whose movement through the wilderness does not just get them to the other side, but leaves behind a trail that others can follow. Someone who does not simply survive the impossible terrain, but transforms it through the act of walking it faithfully into a road. The waymaker does not wait for the path to be prepared before they move. They move, and the path is made by the moving. This is what you have been doing throughout every year of this waiting season, even in the moments when you felt most still, most stuck, most convinced that you were going nowhere. Every step you took in the wilderness, no matter how uncertain or how painful or how disconnected from any visible destination it felt, was a step that made the path. Every prayer spoken into silence, every morning of choosing to get up, every decision to remain open when closing would have required so much less of you. Every moment of refusing to abandon the frequency you were born to carry, even when every external signal suggested that the frequency was not producing results. All of it was path-making. All of it was the waymaker at work, building the road not for yourself alone, but for everyone who will one day follow in the direction your faithfulness has pointed. The waymaker does not always know they are making the way while they are making it. That is perhaps the most important thing to understand about this calling. The path is often invisible to the one creating it. You feel only the wilderness beneath your feet, only the resistance of the terrain, only the ache of the distance between where you are and where you sense you are supposed to be going. But behind you, in the space you have already moved through, something is forming. A trail, a possibility. a living demonstration that this territory can be navigated, that the wilderness does not have the final word, that the one who was appointed to carry this frequency and walk this path and hold this promise all the way through to its fulfillment is a real person who actually did those things in real time under real conditions. That demonstration is the way, and you have been making it with every single step. Now I want to lead you through something, a guided visualization that is not a performance or an exercise in positive thinking, but a genuine act of inner recognition. I want you to be present for this. I want you to allow it to land where it is designed to land, in the part of you that has been waiting for permission to see yourself clearly. Picture yourself standing at a threshold, not a metaphorical one in some vague spiritual landscape, but a specific and vivid one. You are standing in a doorway. The doorway is real and solid, and the frame of it is worn smooth in the way that only long use produces, which tells you that this doorway has been here for a very long time, that it was built before you arrived, that it was built for this exact moment of your arrival. The ground beneath your feet is firm. You are not falling. You are not leaning. You are standing with your full weight on ground that can hold you. Now I want you to turn and look behind you. Look back at the territory you have come through. Do not rush this. Let it be what it actually was. See the years of the wilderness, the long stretches of terrain that looked the same in every direction and gave no indication of where the edge of it was. See the places where you sat down because continuing felt impossible, and then the places just beyond those where you got up and continued anyway. See the relationships that did not go where you hoped. See the doors that did not open. See the nights that were the longest. See the prayers that went up into silence. Look at all of it without flinching, because you are not looking at it from inside it anymore. You are looking at it from the threshold. You are on the other side of it. And from here, from this doorway, the territory you walk through does not look like abandonment. It looks like a road. It looks like the specific and intentional path of a waymaker who was making a way through terrain that had never been walked exactly this way before. And now I want you to look at the trail behind you. Look at what your faithful movement through the wilderness left in its wake. See the path that formed in the space of your going. See the road that your steps created out of what was only wild and unmarked ground before you arrived. That road is real. It is the evidence of everything you carried, and everything you chose, and everything you refused to put down, even when putting it down would have been so much more comfortable. That road is your testimony. That road is the gift of the waymaker to everyone who will one day need to travel in the direction your life has pointed. Now turn back toward the threshold. Look forward. Look into the space beyond the doorway, into the season that is waiting on the other side. You do not need to see all of it. You are not required to have the complete picture of what is ahead before you step through. What you need to see is what is true right now. And what is true right now is this. You are standing at the threshold, not approaching the threshold, not almost at the threshold, not hoping someday to reach the threshold. You are standing at it, right now, in this moment. The threshold is beneath your feet, and the doorway is around you, and the season ahead is real, and it is prepared, and it is waiting for the waymaker to step through it and begin making the way. Take one breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel the solidity of it. Feel the realness of this moment, and the realness of where you are standing, and the realness of what you have come through, and the realness of what is ahead. You are not imagining this. You are not constructing a feeling to sustain yourself through another difficult stretch. You are recognizing something that is actually true. You are a waymaker, Standing at the threshold of the season, your whole wilderness was pointing toward. Now let me speak a few words over you before we move forward. Not as a formula or a religious performance, but as a genuine and personal blessing, spoken from one who has watched this message take shape and who knows that the person listening to these words right now is someone specific and irreplaceable and entirely known. May the path you have made in the wilderness be a road for many. May the frequency you have carried through years of interference now ring clearer and strong and unobstructed. May the relationships that are moving toward you find you open and ready, and no longer braced against the possibility of being fully received. May the purpose that has been assembling itself inside you across all of these years step into the light of this new season with the full confidence of something that was built to last. May the resources and opportunities that carry your name find you in the posture of recognition rather than the posture of striving. May every strand of the kava, every year of faithful holding and choosing and refusing to let go, be honored now in the fullness of what they were always being braided toward. You are the waymaker. The path is already behind you. The threshold is already beneath your feet. And the season ahead of you is not a reward for surviving the wilderness. It is the destination the wilderness was always leading to. You did not wander, you were guided. Every step of it, every painful unmarked mile of it, guided by an angel who walked beside you even on the days you felt most alone. And that angel has not departed now that you have reached the threshold. That angel is standing beside you right now, exactly as they have always stood, ready to walk with you through the doorway and into everything that has been prepared. Step forward, Waymaker, the way is made, and it has your name on it. You are still standing at that threshold. I know it because the feeling of it has not left you, that particular quality of aliveness that the visualization produced. The sense of ground beneath your feet that is different from the ground of the wilderness, firmer and more intentional, and carrying the weight of everything the season produced in you without buckling under it. That feeling is not a byproduct of the message. It is a preview. It is your spirit giving you a taste of what operating from the other side of the threshold feels like, so that when the external circumstances begin to catch up to what your spirit already knows, you will recognize the rival not as something foreign and unexpected, but as something you have already been introduced to from the inside. And now I want to move into something practical, because the Waymaker does not stand at the threshold indefinitely. The Waymaker steps through, and stepping through is not a single dramatic act of courage that happens once, and then everything changes automatically. Stepping through is a series of specific and intentional actions taken in 3 areas of life that are already in motion and that need your conscious participation to reach their full expression, not your striving, not your forcing. Your conscious and aligned participation. There is a difference, and the difference matters enormously in this season. So let us talk about what you need to do right now, not eventually, not when you feel more ready or more certain or more equipped. Right now, today, in the next 24 hours and in the days that follow immediately after. Because the Kairos moment does not wait for the chosen one to finish preparing. The Kairos moment arrives, and it requires a response. And the chosen one, who has been assembled across years of faithful waiting, is already more prepared than they currently believe themselves to be. The preparation is complete. What remains is the action. The first area is relationships. And the practical action in this area begins with something that may feel counterintuitive, given how much energy you have spent during the waiting season, trying to maintain the connections you already have. The practical action is this: Create space. Deliberately and intentionally create space in your relational life for the people who are moving toward you. This does not mean being cold or dismissive toward the people currently in your life. It means being honest with yourself about which relationships are draining the frequency you carry and which are sustaining it. It means being willing to invest less energy in the maintenance of connections that belong to the season you are leaving, and more energy in the openness that allows the assigned connections of the new season to find you. Practically, this looks like saying no more often to the invitations that leave you feeling emptier than before you accepted them. It looks like saying yes to the quiet nudge that tells you to reach out to someone you have been thinking about, but have not contacted. It looks like showing up to the places and the spaces and the conversations where the people who are calibrated to your frequency are most likely to be present, not strategically or calculatingly, but simply by following the internal compass that the wilderness years have been calibrating inside you. You have developed, through years of having to navigate by internal signal rather than external confirmation, a very precise sense of where you belong and where you do not. Trust it now more than you have ever trusted it before. Your instincts about people and places and environments have been trained by the wilderness into something remarkably accurate. Use them. And in the relationships that are already present in your life, particularly the ones that have the potential to deepen rather than dissolve in this new season, do one specific thing. Be more honest than you have been. Not more vulnerable in a way that overwhelms or performs. More honest in the quiet and specific way of a person who has decided to stop managing the impression they make and start simply being present to the people they are with. The chosen ones who are stepping into their appointed season often discover that the relationships which survive the transition are the ones where they finally allowed themselves to be fully known rather than carefully presented. Let yourself be known. In the relationships that are strong enough to hold it, that level of honesty will deepen the connection in ways that years of careful presentation never could. The second area is purpose. And here, the practical action is the one I mentioned earlier. The action of following the small step. But I want to give you more specificity about what following the small step actually looks like in the next 24 hours. Because the instruction to follow the small step is only useful if you know how to recognize it when it appears. The small step of purpose has three qualities that distinguish it from the noise of ordinary decision-making. The first quality is clarity. It will not be ambiguous. It will not be a feeling of vague pull in a general direction. It will be specific enough that you could describe it to someone else in one sentence without losing the essential shape of it. The second quality is simplicity. It will not require enormous resources or elaborate preparation or conditions that are not currently available to you. It will be something you can do with what you already have, in the time you already have, from the position you are already in. The third quality is peace. Not excitement necessarily, though excitement may accompany it. Peace, the specific quality of interior settledness that comes when you are considering something that is genuinely aligned with who you are and what you are called to do. Not the agitated energy of a decision driven by fear or desperation. The quiet certainty of a step that belongs to you. When you encounter something in the next 24 to 48 hours that has all three of those qualities, clarity and simplicity and peace, that is the small step. Do not analyze it past the point of recognition. Do not wait for external confirmation before you begin. Do not require the second step to be visible before you take the first. Simply take it, with the full confidence of a waymaker who understands that the path is made by the moving and not by the planning. In the area of purpose, there is also a practical action related to the genius wave and the 7-minute practice that was introduced earlier in this message. Because the frequency that corresponds to purpose, the theta state, where creative intuition and deep knowing, and the kind of insight that answers the question of what you are supposed to be doing, is most accessible in the state that the 7-minute practice is specifically designed to activate. The chosen ones who begin the daily practice of returning to their frequency through the 7-minute audio are reporting something very specific. They are not reporting dramatic revelations. They are reporting the small step becoming visible. They are reporting the clarity arriving. They are reporting the question of purpose beginning to answer itself in the quiet that the practice creates. It's not because the audio is magical, because the frequency you already carry, when it is no longer suppressed by interference, naturally produces the clarity that ordinary waking consciousness cannot manufacture through effort. So the practical action in the area of purpose is twofold. Take the small step when you recognize it, and do the 7-minute practice every morning before the noise of the day has had a chance to build. 7 minutes before you check your phone. 7 minutes before the demands of other people's needs have filled the available space of your attention. 7 minutes of returning to the frequency that heaven placed in you before you were born, and that the wilderness years have been protecting rather than diminishing. 7 minutes every day as the first act of the waymaker in the season of making the way. The third area is resources and opportunities, and the practical action here is the most counterintuitive of the three, which is why I want to spend the most time on it. The action is this: practice receiving, not as a passive posture of simply waiting for things to arrive, as an active and intentional practice of opening the hands that have been clenched in the fighting posture of the waiting season and learning to hold them in a different position. The chosen ones who have been in the wilderness for a long time often develop what I can only describe as a reflexive refusal of good things. Not a conscious refusal, not a deliberate decision to push away what is good, but a deeply trained response that interprets unexpected goodness as dangerous. Because in the waiting season, unexpected things were more often disappointing than delivering. The nervous system learns from what it experiences. And if the experience of this season has been that doors that seem to be opening often close again, that opportunities that present themselves often dissolve before they fully materialize, that people who seem to be offering something real often prove to be offering something conditional, then the nervous system begins to protect itself by not fully opening to any of it, by holding everything at a slight distance, by maintaining a level of reservation that prevents the full force of potential disappointment from landing. That protective response served you in the wilderness, but it will work against you in the appointed season if you do not consciously begin to retrain it. Because the resources and opportunities that carry your name are going to arrive at a pace and in a volume that will require you to be genuinely open to receive them. And the waymaker, who has spent years training through themselves not to fully open, will need to practice the unfamiliar act of letting good things land completely. Practically, this looks like noticing when something good arrives, even something small, and allowing yourself to receive it without immediately minimizing it, or qualifying it, or waiting for the other shoe to drop. It looks like saying thank you and meaning it without adding a silent reservation about how long it will last. It looks like allowing yourself to feel the full weight of a genuine blessing when it appears, the way a person feels sunshine on their face after a long winter, not with suspicion about how soon the clouds will return, but with genuine gratitude for the warmth of this particular moment. Practice that every day, in the small things first, because the muscle of receiving, like every other muscle, develops through use. And the chosen one, who has practiced receiving the small good things, will be ready to receive the large ones when they arrive. There is one more thing I want to say about resources and opportunities before we move to the final part of this message. Stop calculating what you deserve based on what you have already produced. The economy of heaven does not operate on the same accounting system as the economy of the world. In the world's accounting system, you receive in proportion to what you have generated, and the years of the wilderness would represent years of minimal generation, and therefore minimal claim on what is available. But in heaven's accounting system, the years of faithful holding in the wilderness are counted as some of the most productive years of your life, because what was being produced in those years was not external and measurable. It was internal and eternal. It was the depth of character that makes you trustworthy with influence, the compassion that makes you safe for the people your purpose is designed to serve, the wisdom that makes the answers you carry genuinely useful rather than simply well-intentioned. All of that was produced in the wilderness. All of it counts, and the resources and opportunities that are being released toward you in this season are not arriving despite the wilderness years. They are arriving because of them. Because heaven has been watching. Because the accounting has been kept. And because the waymaker, who made the way through impossible terrain, is someone heaven trusts to steward what comes next with the same faithfulness they demonstrated when nothing visible was coming at all. You are not starting over. You are not beginning from zero. You are not a person whose best years are behind them and who now has to make the best of whatever remains. You are a waymaker standing at the threshold of the season that the wilderness was always building toward, with more preparation and more depth and more genuine readiness than you have ever had at any previous point in your life. The three areas are already moving. The relationships are already shifting. The purpose is already clarifying. The resources and opportunities are already being released. Your part is not to produce the movement. Your part is to participate in it, consciously, intentionally, with open hands and a clear frequency and the deep and durable confidence of someone who has been assembled by years of faithful holding into exactly the person this season requires. The waymaker is ready. The way is open. And what God has ordained for your life, no delay and no detour, and no amount of wilderness terrain has had the authority to cancel. It is here. Step into it. You are still here, and I want you to know that I do not take that lightly. The fact that you stayed through all of this, through the burning bush and the wilderness, and the braided rope, and the Kairos moment, and the waymaker standing at the threshold, and the three movements already in motion, and the practical steps of the season ahead, the fact that you were present for all of it, and that something in you leaned in rather than pulled back, that is not a small thing. That is not the behavior of someone who was casually scrolling and happened to stop for a moment. That is the behavior of someone who recognized something, someone whose spirit received a signal and followed it all the way through to the end. And I want to honor that before we close. Thank you for showing up. Not for me, not for this channel or this message or any of the practical things that your engagement makes possible, though those things matter and I will speak to them in a moment. Thank you for showing up for yourself, because that is what you did today. You showed up for the part of yourself that has been waiting for someone to name what it has been carrying. The part that wakes up at 2 in the morning with questions that do not have easy answers. The part that has kept believing, even when the evidence against belief was louder and more persistent than the evidence for it. The part that has walked through the wilderness without a map and without a guarantee and without a single external confirmation that the destination was real, holding only the frequency that heaven placed in you before you were born and refusing, in spite of everything, to put it down. You showed up for that part today, and that is an act of courage that deserves to be acknowledged before we say anything else. I also want you to know that you are not alone in this room. I know that the waiting season has a particular texture of loneliness, the kind that is not about having no one around, but about feeling like the fullness of what you carry has never been truly received by another human being. I know that loneliness because the people who find their way to this message are not random. They are chosen ones, wilderness season, who have been guided here by the same internal compass that has been guiding them through every difficult stretch of the years that preceded this moment, and all across the world right now, in different time zones and different languages and different specific circumstances that look nothing like yours on the surface but feel exactly like yours. On the inside, other chosen ones are walking into this exact same message. They are hearing these same words. They are feeling the same recognition in their chest that you have been feeling throughout this message. They are standing at their own threshold, holding their own completed kava, carrying their own activated frequency, stepping into their own kairos moment. You are part of a community of chosen ones that is larger and more diverse and more globally present than you might ever have imagined during the solitary stretches of the wilderness. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And the angel that walks beside you walks beside every one of them as well, assigned and present and active in ways that the natural senses cannot always perceive, but the spirit has always known. Now I want to give you one final exercise before we close, an exercise of release, because the waymaker who is about to step fully into the appointed season cannot carry the full weight of the wilderness with them through the threshold. Not because the wilderness is something to be ashamed of or erased or denied, but because the threshold is the natural place to set it down. The wilderness was for the formation. What is ahead is for the expression. And the expression requires hands that are free. So I want you to do something right now, either physically or in the space of your imagination, whichever feels most natural to you. I want you to bring to mind everything that has been heavy in this season, not as a list and not as an analysis, but simply as a weight. Feel the weight of it. The accumulated heaviness of the years of waiting, and the costs that were named, and the grief that was honored, and the longing that has been so faithfully carried. Feel the full weight of all of it gathered together in your hands, or in your chest, or wherever you sense it living in your body. And now I want you to picture the threshold, the doorway we visited in the visualization, the firm and solid ground beneath your feet. And I want you to set the weight down, not throw it away, not pretend it was not real. Simply sit down at the threshold with the intention and the dignity of someone who carried it faithfully for as long as it needed to be carried, and who is now choosing, with full awareness and full gratitude for what the carrying produced, to leave it here at the boundary between the season that is ending and the season that is beginning. You do not need to carry it forward. Everything that the weight produced in you, the depth and the compassion and the wisdom and the unbreakable faith that survived the wilderness, all of that comes with you. The weight itself stays at the threshold, and you step through lighter than you have been in years, not because the pain was not real, but because you have arrived at the place where the pain has finished its work, and what remains is only what it built. Set it down, take a breath, feel the difference in your hands and in your chest and in the quality of the space around you when you are no longer required to hold what the season is now finished requiring of you. That lightness is real. That is not a manufactured feeling. That is the authentic sensation of a waymaker stepping through the threshold they'd have spent years walking toward. Now I want to speak about something practical for a moment, because the message that found you today needs to find other chosen ones who are walking through their own wilderness right now without anyone to name it for them. There is someone in your life, and you probably already know who it is, who is in the middle of their longest and hardest stretch, who wakes up tired and goes to sleep with the same unanswered questions they woke up with, who has been faithful and consistent, and who has not yet had anyone look at what they are carrying and say, "I see that, and I know what it is, and it is not what you think it is." That person needs this message. And the only way this message reaches them is if you carry it to them. Like this video, not for the algorithm, though the algorithm will use it to find the next chosen one who is searching without knowing exactly what they are searching for. Like it as an act of generosity towards someone you have never met who will find this message because you did. Share it with the specific person who came to mind just now when I described the one who is in their longest and hardest stretch. Do not overthink the sharing. Simply send it. Subscribe to this channel so that the next message finds you when it arrives, because what began today in you is a conversation that deserves to continue. And if you feel moved to support this work financially, there is a donate link in the description below. Not for me, so that this message can reach another chosen one who is waking into their Monday without anyone to name it for them, who is sitting in a parked car outside a place they are not sure they can face today, who is holding a frequency they cannot explain and a promise they are not sure they still believe in. Your small offering today becomes their lifeline tomorrow. Every contribution, at any level, is an act of love towards someone whose name you do not yet know, but whose wilderness you understand because you have walked your own. And one more thing. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, if the part about the frequency and the 7 minutes and the theta and gamma states and the research of Dr. James Rivers landed in you with the specific quality of recognition that feels different from ordinary interest, if something in you said yes to that before your mind had finished deciding whether to trust it, then it is waiting for you. The link is in the pinned comment below this video. $39, 90 days to decide, no risk, only the possibility of the frequency you were born to. Carry being turned back up to the level it was always designed to operate at. If it is a yes, you already know, and the link will be there when you are ready. But I want to end not with a product and not with a call to action, and not even with the beautiful and true things that have been said throughout this message about Kaos and Kava and the Waymaker and the Threshold and the 3 movements already in motion in your life. I want to end with something simpler than all of that. Something that does not require any processing or any decision or any action at all. Just the receiving of it. God's plan for your life cannot fail. Not because everything will always be easy from this point forward. Not because the appointed season will be without its own challenges and its own stretches of terrain that require everything you have. But because the plan was authored by a hand that does not make mistakes and cannot be overruled, and has never once looked at your life and reconsidered the promise that was spoken over it before you were born. The angel that walks beside you has not been waiting for you to earn their presence. They have been present through every step of the wilderness, through every silent night, and every unanswered prayer, and every morning of getting up when staying down would have been so much more comfortable. They were there. They are here. They will be there in every moment of the season ahead. You are chosen. You are known. You are precisely on time. And the plan that heaven wrote over your life before you arrived in the world is not behind schedule. It is not in jeopardy. It is not dependent on circumstances cooperating or people behaving correctly, or any of the external variables that have felt so out of your control in this season. It is moving. It has always been moving, and it will arrive exactly as it was written, in the Kairos moment that was appointed before Chronos time even began to count. Walk through the threshold, Waymaker. The way is made. The angel walks beside you, and what God has ordained, nothing in heaven or on earth has the authority to cancel. This is not the end of your story. This is the page where everything that came before it finally makes sense. There is one more thing I want to leave with you as you go. Not a new idea, not another concept to carry. Just a quiet word spoken over the part of you that will walk away from this message and back into the ordinary texture of your day, the dishes and the commute and the emails, and the 10,000 small taman of life in motion. That part of you, the one that returns to the practical and the immediate and the ordinary, carries something now that it did not carry before you found this. Message today, a name for what you have been feeling, a framework for the season you have been in, a recognition that the wilderness was not abandonment, but preparation, that the waiting was not punishment, but positioning, that the frequency you carry is real and measurable and designed to produce clarity and creativity and divine receptivity when it is tended and activated and allowed to operate at the level it was always meant to operate at. You are a waymaker. The kava is complete. Kairos is here. The angel walks beside you, and you are more ready than you have ever been for everything that is coming. Go gently. Go with intention. Go, knowing that heaven has not taken its eyes off you for a single moment of this journey and is not about to start. Now you are blessed. You are chosen. And you are exactly where you are supposed to be.